Hello, welcome to the Indie Ocean. This is Brimstone. It's a dungeon crawler that was released a couple of weeks ago in the midst of the event known as the Indie Uprising, though not affiliated with it. And those of you who follow my channel or my blog regularly will know I have a bit of a soft spot for dungeon crawlers, particularly when they are, as this is, procedurally generated. Yes, I know you're probably sick of hearing that phrase said in my voice, but there's not a lot I can do about it. I happen to like procedurally generated games. I like the replayability. Anyway, this is a loot troll. I'll go with my one character here, named Mayo, after one of my favourite historical figures, Mayo of Bari. Anyway, don't need to fiddle with the appearance much. Let's just go straight in. And we've got an update here, so that's nice. Just downloaded an update, so we've got a little message. Anyway, let's just press on, and we'll skip this bit, because it's not really that important. Basically, there's a dungeon full of evil stuff, and we can have a talk to this guy. It's a grave hour. Oh yes, monsters everywhere, and there's someone down there in the dungeon who needs rescuing. Straight off the bat, we have some cash, so we can squander some of our cash on equipment. You'll notice in the top right I already have quite a lot of equipment, because I have put some time into this already. Not loads, but some. But while we're here at the top of the dungeon, which is where we always start when we reload a saved game, we can do some shopping. Fairly straightforward. Green shows you stuff that's better, red shows you stuff that's worse than your current equipment. And there are statistical caps, like you can see on the right there. That requires 18 strength, which we have, but that requires 16 dexterity, which we don't have. So let's just take this thing, this sallet, which is some kind of helmet. Yeah, we'll take that. Okay. Hello, Maverick Hunter. And we'll hit LB to equip that. Now, we just have an enormous list of all the stuff we're carrying here, but fortunately, by pressing Y, you can filter it by type, which is an absolute lifesaver. So, we'll equip that, destroy that. As far as I can tell, you can't actually sell any of your used gear. You have to just destroy it. If there is a way to sell it, I haven't found it. And let's head down into the dungeon. So, here we go. Let's start smashing up some monsters. You perform your basic attack here, your melee attack, by holding X. And you also have a magical attack by pressing B, like that. But I've put barely any points at all, any level up points into magic, so that one isn't the most useful. We'll take the Scroll of Healing, leave the rest of it behind. Because we can't sell it for money anyway, so let's just ignore it. Open doors and search crates and things by pressing A. And you just explore. And all of this has changed. The layout of it has changed since the last time I was in here. If you walk back up through the dungeon, we can loot this corpse. Unidentified dagger. It's a risk, because as in things like cursed loot, it could be cursed loot. So if you use it without identifying it, then it could drop you into some hardship. You could find that it's actually a problem. But Scroll of Purity will relieve you of cursed items, so you can actually stop using them and get rid of them. And there are also scrolls that will allow you to identify items. So let's have a look. I think it's Scroll of Knowing. So let's use a Scroll of Knowing. And that's identified our mystery dagger, which is a balanced dagger, and it's not cursed at all, but it's not nearly as good as our current sword. So that was sort of a waste of the scroll. But yeah, as you explore the dungeon, if you walk back up to the top, the floors will remain the exact same layout as they did on the way down. But when you quit the game and re-enter, as I have here, they're sort of regenerated, re-randomized from the beginning again. So it's not just that each full playthrough randomizes, it's that each time you have an individual play session it randomizes. So this is, in some ways, quite a bare-bones dungeon crawl, in that you just go around grabbing loads of loot items to heal yourself and identify all the crap you pick up, and you just either bash enemies or shoot fire at them. And that's pretty much your lot. Equip stuff so you can go further and further down, gain levels, put points into your statistics, but I don't think you can particularly unlock any abilities, not active abilities anyway. So it's not like Cursed Loot or Torchlight or something like that, where you can actually improve your abilities and you can get new powers. You just improve your stats in a much more traditional way, more like something like Denizen's Den or Dungeon Adventure or something quite traditional like that. So it's a roguelike in the sense of being more like Rogue, the original, one of the first. And at first that put me off. I have coming to this from things like Die Hard Dungeon and Cursed Loot. I felt like this was a little too basic for me, but it's quite addictive. Like a lot of simple games, once you start getting into it, it always compels you to push forward. Or I find it does anyway. Of course, it helps if you like dungeon crawling anyway. And the guy right at the top, who we spoke to first, gives us occasional missions. For instance, to rescue someone from the depths of the dungeon, or to find their remains, more likely, and that sort of thing. So you do have odd missions to be going on with as well. You do have some sort of objective for pressing on deeper into the dungeon. And as you can see, I mean, I'm not going to say the game is spectacularly pretty or anything, but by the standards of Xbox Live indie games, which generally look like they've been drawn in baby vomit, this is reasonably appealing to look at. And the visual design, the way sort of glowing effects are used on some of these enemies, and the general aesthetics of the dungeon floors and things. Oh, I'm almost out of health. Better press Y to use a healing item. Yeah, the way some items glow with that sort of lighting effect, and the general aesthetics of the whole thing, and even the combat, the way the combat feels, all reminds me quite a lot of the original Blood Omen Legacy of Kain on the PS1. Very different sort of game, but the feel of the gameplay is quite similar. And as a fan of that game, I appreciate it. Someone who didn't grow up with earlier console generations might find this a little clumsy and unwieldy, particularly the very close range of the combat. But if you can get past that, or if you're accustomed to it from playing much older games when you were younger sprog, there is a lot to enjoy here. As long as you don't demand much in the way of depth or complexity, if you like trawling for loot and exploring randomly generated dungeons, then there's a lot to keep you going in Brimstone. And for 80 Microsoft points, I definitely think it's worth a look if this is the sort of thing you're into, like me. That is, it's something I'm into, not that you should be into me. You know what I mean. Anyway, this has been Brimstone. Thanks for watching, and as usual, I will see you the next time with more game-related videos. See you then. Oh, and addendum. I almost forgot to mention. This actually has multiplayer. I haven't tried it out yet, though I'm working on that. But successful multiplayer on Xbox Live indie games. It's not all that common.